Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching and Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channels. This is the Hard to Kill review for the Impact, obviously, brand here in the beginning of January, the 8th of January, that is, 2022. I don't really understand why Impact needs pay-per-views at this point, but it is what it is. They are airing from the Texas area here, Dallas, Texas specifically. Anyway, so kind of countdown to Hard to Kill. Tom Hafkin and D'Lo Brown on commentary tonight. The former Tom Phillips. Jake Something defeats Madman Fulton in the, I guess, pre-show. Anyway, hoss fight between the two. Fulton is dominant. Fans are cheering for him, and they want a choke slam. This doesn't happen, but goes for things one too many. Something reverses into black hole slam and gets the win. I'm not really a fan of Jake Something, so I don't understand why you're wasting a guy like Madman Fulton in this role. Gia Miller interviews Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona about how they're feeling tonight. Green said she's ready to win. Come back with the Knockouts title scene. Cardona says that tonight they both leave as winners. Speedball Mike Bailey defeats Chris Bay, Ace Austin, Laredo Kid. Don't like these multi-person matches, as I've made clear before. This is Bailey's debut with Impact since signing a few weeks back. Good, fast-paced match for what it is. Match sets up with some multi-man spots, transitions into pair-ups, Kid and Bay and Austin. Then everyone gets a chance to do a bunch of dives. Laredo Kid does a jumping top rope Spanish fly to the floor, landing on Bay and Austin and killing all credibility of the match. Back in the ring, they start trading a bunch of moves, pin attempts, ending with Bailey taking out Bay with a standing moonsault, knees, and Austin gets hit with the ultimate weapon. Opening video package for the pay-per-view sees the Impact wrestlers talking about past injuries and how they've overcome them to be here tonight, alluding to the Impact's possibility of the promotion of Hard to Kill. Tasha Steelz with Savannah Evans defeats Chelsea Green, Jordana Gracia, Alicia Edwards, Rosemary with Havoc, Lady Frost, an Ultimate X match. Not a fan of women in an Ultimate X match just because I think it's too dangerous for men, let alone women. Anyway, match starts with everyone trying to run for the X. Wrestlers keep falling. Steelz and Green pair up, falling. Grace versus Steelz and Rosemary and Grace. Early on, Havoc helps Rosemary, lifting to reach the X, but Green stops that with a missile dropkick. Followed by Edwards and Green climbing the corner structures and diving at least 10 feet up and diving on everyone. Frost hits a diving senton. Dives for the sake of dives because we don't care about psychology. Frost and Grace battled one another in the corner structures. Grace then mounts the ropes first, but Frost hung herself from Grace yet again. Grace then stays on the ropes. Grace and Rosemary take out the double team moves and take out the rest of the competition. Green climbs the ropes and seems to accidentally lose her grip, falls right onto Steelz. Edwards then runs in with a kendo stick and takes out everyone, and then takes her out with a cross ropes, only to get speared by Rosemary. Steelz then goes up and goes for the X, but Grace catches her and ended up taking each other out. Frost then does a huge moonsault from the top of the structure to the floor, taking out half the competition. Back again, Grace and Steelz fight for the X from the top rope and exchange strikes, but during the distraction, Green makes it to the X. Steelz struggles with the X on the ropes, but Steelz dropped herself and brought the X out with her for the win. Some spots looked awkward. They personally did everything they possibly could do. Promo from Mickey James from earlier in the day talking about entering the Royal Rumble. which is just weird. An Impact person in the Rumble. I think this was just done to hurt AEW in the sense that it really doesn't matter that the Impact champion is in the Royal Rumble, except that maybe more than 75,000 people might watch Impact once this year. Focus is not on the Rumble tonight. It's on the Texas Death Match against Deanna Purrazzo. Decent enough promo. Mickey James is a talented individual. I'm just not sure that their partnership with the WWE is worth it for anybody. Miller interviews Deanna Purrazzo about James' comments. Purrazzo said she's ready to reclaim her title in the first time she enters pay-per-view without the title. Gail Kim confronts Purrazzo, tells Reinhold that if he interferes tonight, he will be fired, and Purrazzo loses her match. X Division champion. Look how far the mighty have fallen. Trey Miguel defeats Steve Mclean to retain the title. These two have been feuding for quite a few months. Mclean claiming that Miguel never remains, and he remains unbeaten and unsubmitted. Miguel keeps beating other people. Mclean then keeps requesting single matches, and there we go into the match itself. Mclean attacks Miguel during the entrance, catching him with a dive before the bell. Raquel recovers and catches Mclean with a tornado DDT on the ramp. They make the ring start to the match, but the match quickly spills to the floor again after Miguel dives to the corner and way into the crowd. On a second attempt, Mclean catches Miguel with a swing and hits him into the guardrail, successfully cutting off Miguel. Mclean then worked over Miguel's back and neck, mostly standing, striking him at right point, and ends up hitting a Cactus Jack elbow drop to the back, and Miguel follows up with an apron bomb. Moves for the sake of moves. Miguel then finally makes a comeback with a desperation reversal and leaves Mclean open for the double foot stomp and enters Miguel a couple of seconds to get a breather and then places some distance between them. Miguel capitalizes by dropping Mclean with the DDT on the apron, and then he tries to follow up with the Meteora, but instead Mclean hangs him from the ropes and hits a huge crosshair and meets Miguel for the twofold, only for the 2 count. Mclean then goes for the Mayhem for all, but Miguel counters into the DDT Rana, but could only get a 2 count. Both men exchange strikes. On the apron, Miguel then catches Mclean with a knee lift followed by a Meteora on the floor. Mclean then goes head first into the barricade, but then it seems okay. Miguel then drops Mclean in the ring, hits a Meteora, but Mclean kicks out at 2.9. Miguel hits a buzzsaw kick, brainbuster, and the second Meteora gets the win. I guess if you like matches with very little psychology, I guess this is fine. Promo from The Inspiration, Madison Rayne to Neil Dashwood. They say that The Inspiration were unprofessional for not showing up to work. They said the match will happen later in a Fort Lauderdale show. Ian Riccaboni joins the commentary team for the upcoming match. Bobby Cruz's ring announcing duties. ROH World Champion John Gresham defeats Chris Sabin to retain the title. The match is being contested under pure rules. First time in history of both promotions, Ring of Honor title is contested in Impact Ring. Commentary explained that the match was owed to Sabin. Code of Honor is upheld. Match starts off with some grappling exchange sequence. Gresham keeps getting the upper hand, but Sabin comes back, adding a little bit of lucha and high spots into the exchange with Gresham. Gresham then targets the left arm, takes shots at the ankle as well. Sabin desperately pushes Gresham to the floor and catches him with a running kick to get the opening. Back in the ring, the match pace picked up and benefited Sabin, catching Gresham with a Stormbreaker DDT. For near fall, Gresham then tries to snap Sabin's arm. Sabin gets him with a draping dragon screw for the pin, while Gresham breaks his feet on the ropes. Gresham comes back with a dragon screw, a couple of elbows, and into the crossface, but Sabin made the ropes. Gresham then pulls Sabin into the center of the ring and locked the crossface on again, but Sabin removed removes him into the pin. Gresham follows up with the octopus hold and some hammer fists. Sabin reverses into a cradle shock for a 3 count, but Hebner failed to realize that Gresham's leg was under the ropes. The match continues, and Gresham gets a second rope break that he can use. Both countered strikes in the middle of the ring. They get into a large chop exchange. Both men are close to collapsing, continuing open hand slaps during the next order. Final minute sees both men counter pin attempts until Gresham reverses a Lamali Shark Cradle into a European clutch, getting the win. Really good match, probably the best match on the show, and it's not even by one of the talents isn't even on their roster. Miller interviews Tasha Steelz about her win. Steelz says tonight she made history, and it will be James Peraza who has a date on the wrong side of the street with her. Josh Alexander defeats Jonah. Jonah made his debut not too long ago at the last pay-per-view. Speed versus power match. Alexander goes straight for Jonah's ankle, working towards the ankle lock. Jonah continues working on Alexander's ribs at one point, slamming him rib first on the apron. Back in the ring, Jonah military presses Alexander on the top turnbuckles and go to the middle of the ring for the near fall. Alexander attempts a back suplex, but after not being able to get it, then goes back to the ankle lock and the C4 attempt and didn't get anywhere. Jonah then blocks by dropping him on the ropes and hitting a senton for near fall. Alexander provoked Jonah to drop him with the elbow and used the opportunity to attack Jonah's ankle and clotheslines him over the ropes. Jonah fell to the floor. Match spills into the crowd where Alexander floored Jonah right hand and then flies from the top rope all the way to the crowd, taking out Jonah, who barely made it into the ring before the countout. Alexander then goes for the C4, but once again, Jonah counted out. Alexander then caught Jonah with a jumping knee, but when he went for the moonsault, Jonah stepped away from him. Alexander then is able to fight back, only to take a superflex. Both counters into a great strike exchange into the middle of the ring and ended up with Jonah powerbombing Alexander for a 2 count, followed by a lariat for another, and then they did the unprotected headbutts and a brainbuster, but again Alexander kicks out. Alexander busted open by the headbutts. Not a fan of these. Anyway, Jonah goes for top rope senton, but Alexander catches him with an ankle lock. Jonah drops him and goes for the moonsault, but fails. Alexander then hits a German suplex and a powerbomb for a 2 count. Alexander follows up with an ankle lock, stomps on Jonah's head and taps him out. Jonah headbutts aside. It was a crazy battle. Anyway, Miller interviews Eddie Edwards with Swan, Willie Mack, Heath Slater, Rhino. Edwards said that they're ready, willing to go all out and do everything necessary to win tonight. So, multi-person match time that's just a waste of time. Eddie Edwards, Rich Swann, Willie Mack, Heath, and Rhino defeat the Impact Tag Team Champions, the Good Brothers, Anderson and Gallows, and Violent by Design, Eric Young, Joe Doring, and Diener in a hardcore war. Feud has been long-lasting. I can't imagine anybody cares about this in 2022. The opening entrance for Diener for Violent by Design, Rich Swann, babyface teams. They mostly go back and forth using weapons. Chair from Swan, garbage can from Diener. Third participant within the match, Carl Anderson, holding a golf club. Swan takes both Diener and Anderson out for a bit, taking out the former with a cutter, but numbers get the better of him. Anderson takes him out with a belt shot. Willie Mack then comes in fourth with an axe handle. Swan and Mack regain control of the match as Mack brings us out a door with for a makeshift bed where Mack and Swan hit 3D on Diener. Doc Gallows, Diener is still down, but Good Brothers regain control of the ring. Soon after that, out comes Eddie Edwards with a kendo stick, takes out everyone with dives, even the barricades. Edwards brings out tables. Eric Young out next, taking out Edwards with trash can lids. Outside, Gallows takes out Mack with a chair. Anderson's focused on Swan. Heath is out next with the powder, and then they go to the ramp steel pipe to take out Diener. Diener and Gallows. He joins Mac and Edwards' trash can. Moonsault. Mac crashes through and burns as Diener gets a bit of an advantage here by moving out of the way. Joe Doring. Anyway, Eddie Edwards dives at him, and Doring simply pushes him to the side. Doring then powerbombs Mac and Swan, who were trying to superplex Diener. Good brothers in Violent by Design have control in the ring. Edwards then busted open, but Rhino's turn came up. Rhino had a chair around had a chain around his fist and takes out everyone, saving Young for last. Gallows, Young, and Heath are all busted open at this point. Match is going way too long here. 5-on-5. Stare down. Brawl starts in the ring. Young and Edwards are exchanging trash can lid strikes until Young goes down. Edwards then breaks out the kendo stick, attacking everyone, but the second one he lights on fire to strike Gallows. Edwards goes for Tiger Bomb on the apron, but Doring saved Young instead. Young drops Edwards with a pile driver through a table, following a 450 splash from Swan to the floor on Young. Mac brings out a barbed wire plywood sheet. Doring then stops them, takes Swan, and hits him with a running DVD through it. Finally, Anderson takes out Mac with a gun stun, but Heath was there. Puts down the table with the Cowboys helmet, follows by a gore from Rhino and the pin. Matt Taven and Mike Bennett jump the rail. Rhino and Heath and Mac try to help, but Vincent and PCO join them. They take out the rest of the crew. The Kingdom spike pile drives Mac, while PCO hits the apron senton on Swan. At the end, Maria Kanellis comes out and joins the group. Taven alluded that they were going to take the tag team titles soon. That would be good. Mike Bennett may be able to shine here with a less bloated roster than the last time he was in Impact. Anyway, backstage, Miller tries to check on D'Amore, who left to call Baltimore and figure out what's going on. Impact World Champion Moose defeats Morrissey, and Matt Cardona retain the title. Match starts in a heightened run. Cardona had dived on both men only about a minute in, only to get apron bombed by Moose, who then gets powerbombed by Morrissey. Back in the ring, all three men keep trading momentum. Morrissey taking out both men, ending up with a go to hell on Morrissey for near fall. Cardona then comes back with broski kicks, and Morrissey stops him in his tracks. At one point, Moose powerbombs Morrissey, who had Cardona in a fallaway slam position, but Morrissey wasn't able to capitalize on it. But instead, Morrissey and Cardona brawled to the ramp, where Chelsea Green came out and splashed on Moose to save her husband. Back in the ring, Morrissey dove on both men and followed Cardona into the ring. Morrissey played to the crowd a bit much, allowing Cardona to make a comeback with a codebreaker. Moose and Cardona exchanged forearms in the ring. Moose then goes top rope, jumping crossbody. Cardona pushes him off. Moose then flies and crashes through the timekeeper's table. Fans tossed a prosthetic leg into the ring, so Morrissey uses it. Cardona then gets a huge ovation for this. Cardona comes back with radio silence for 2 count. Morrissey chokeslam Cardona for a 2 count. Cardona then ends up escaping a powerbomb and hits another radio silence, but Moose pulled the referee in time to save. Cardona blocks out the lights out and rolled Moose for 2 count, but then comes down. Moose then goes for the lights out and accidentally takes out referee. Morrissey then comes back and takes out Cardona to hit the powerbomb on Moose, and then gets a 10 count on him, but there's no referee. Morrissey comes back with chairs in the ring, but ends up giving Moose time to recover, low blow on him, and then attack with the chair. Repeatedly, Cardona comes back and does the same to Moose, but then later uses the low blow. Similar spot from a couple weeks ago, Cardona takes out Green with the chair, but this time Green and the second re ended up taken out, where Moose powerbombed Cardona on top of them. Moose follows through with lights out on Cardona for the pin. And then Rebellion will take place on April 23rd from Poughkeepsie, New York. Main event, Mickie James defeated Deonna Purrazzo Texas Deathmatch. This is the official rematch for Cardona. Roxy is at ringside, who is the ROH Women's Champion, and the match starts with a decent lockup. They roll around, and James is catching Purrazzo off guard. They stand up immediately. Purrazzo then follows, locking in the Venus de Milo, tapping out James, but there's no count. Both women agreed to start bringing in chairs, tables into the match. They brawl around ringside, slamming each other into everything they could find, including the use of a wheelbarrow. Brawl continues on the ramp. Purrazzo suplex James, runs her over with a rolling trunk for 3 count, but only a 9 count as far as the Texas Deathmatch rules. James gets busted open at some point during this process. James recovers. The match comes back into the ring. She locks on single leg crab, which is enough to get Purrazzo off her back for a little bit. James then lands a series of knee strikes with a knee brace, but instead, capitalizing, brings the table into the ring. Purrazzo then slams her instead. Purrazzo then goes back into the thumbtacks, where James almost drops Purrazzo and hits a tornado DDT, but Purrazzo reverses and drops James into Purrazzo, choke slamming James with her own leather straps, and she then said her entrance gear, but James once again made the 10 count. James then brought out the guitar, but Purrazzo catches her and then goes after her bad knee with a chair. She then tries to Pillmanize James's knee, but James manages to get up. Purrazzo gets nailed with the chair. At this point, James just keeps falling on top of the thumbtacks a bunch of times. Purrazzo then busts her open from the chair shot. Purrazzo gets pinned, and Reinhold comes out, and Purrazzo is up, and ultimately I gotta grab my phone. We'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail to finish this up. And again, as we go forward, kind of a, Mickie James certainly being given this opportunity. James hits Purrazzo on the tack and then goes for a guitar shot, but Reinhold comes in instead. James hits the Mickie DDT. Mandarin broke a table on Purrazzo, so she wasn't able to stand. James then retains the title. James will be able to enter the Royal Rumble as the Impact Knockouts champion. Roxy, she won't be getting the Impact title on the line when she defends the ROH title against Purrazzo, but it is what it is. Overall, not a bad show, but certainly not a show that needs to be here. In any event, we'll be back with more right after this.